Scientist in the top, another game. Blue and red side is the Singed ban. That's going to be something that other teams who haven't shown Singed yet are going to notice and take something from it. Where MVP goes when it comes to the bans, because Gen G on blue side, will they ban Master Yi or Taric? History says no.
History says no, but I think after game number 1, you got to take a step back and say, well, I don't know, guys. We were 10,000 gold ahead, and we still were losing fights against this kind of composition. No thanks.
We finally get one answer to one of our questions, which is, was the difficulty with which the victory prompted worth it for the side of Gen G? Coach says no. I'd like you to notice that we do see a Camille and a Taliyah ban. That's a lot of bans thrown into the jungle pool. A lot of respect for Haru means Vladimir flex pick is open. A lot of stuff is open. The Zoe, big pick for Fly, that is open. Everything short of Irelia when it comes to these flex picks is open. Lulu, Vladimir, both of them. And the Lulu is the final decision here. It is a bit of a blocker to a funneling strategy as well. So usually you want to funnel with a Lulu somewhere on your lineup.
Yeah, Lulu's a great flex pick amongst all the other great flex picks we have on this patch, and
we got a new duo open. Shen and Nocturne open in this game.
True.
I haven't seen Shen Nocturne available to be picked on red side ever since Griffin was starring with that duo earlier in the season. MVP gonna reach for the Zoe, big pick for Fly, so a denial pick there, and we've seen more Skarner bans than impressive Skarner games so far this season, so I think the Xin Zhao with Camille and Taliyah banned away is definitely the strongest skirmishing jungle pick available.
Yeah, I mean, you think about Haru, right? He's fantastic on, 2 or 3 picks that get really aggressive and in your face, and on this patch, it would be Camille, Xin Zhao, Taliyah, right? But switch it up into the Ryze. I mean, the Ryze was looking good in the last game for Kyve, but can MVP run it to the same effect? Actually make that work for them more than the Xin Zhao takeaway from Haru? I'm not so sure.
Seems like they're thinking here, Gen G, there's going to be a bot lane Ryze. Gen G have been very staunch in not picking entire bot lanes before they have information. Of course, just the Tahm Kench doesn't prove everything of the bot lane from Gen G, but it's usually Tahm Kench Ezreal that they're picking. They're showing Rammus, which Fly would definitely play in the mid lane if he could. This will not be the game.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. Ezreal for Ruler, everything lines up once again.
This is the only duo lane they will blind pick currently on patch 8.11 is Tahm Kench Ezreal for ultra safety, an old favorite of King Zones in spring season. Yeah. And MVP just lock in the support Fiddlesticks. Will it be a Ryze Fiddlesticks lane, I wonder? On the red side, Fiddlesticks seeing a lot of respect in other regions. Been a lot of bans in Korea, but not as many picks, so good to see another game on it.
Yeah, just gives you a lot of pressure down the bottom side, tons of poke. You mentioned Nocturne Shen being available. Already a Nocturne ban does come out here, so we're going to take those dreams away from you.
Little support is very, very respected for the power of the fear, and in a meta where a lot of people are funneled onto one champion, them being feared for 2.5 seconds is a big thing, so that's why I see so much respect. No jungle picks yet. In the first round, almost always we see first round junglers. You see Nocturne and Xin Zhao ban, and you're like, not much left. Graves is one that could be considered.
Evelyn.
Evelyn's actually getting banned against Haru. Haru loves Evelyn in solo queue. Yeah. I've asked him a couple of times for Evelyn in pro play, and he always laughs at me. So I guess that was probably not going to come up, and maybe we don't know something about scrims. And now Graves is pretty conspicuous as the strongest meta jungler still left open.
That kind of seems like the obvious pick, right? Not much left available. All these bans against junglers.
Mundo. Could be top or jungle. Jungle Mundo is actually very decent. I think top lane, there's not very many bad matchups, so I'm a pretty big fan of it. It's okay. Ruler. Are we going to see a Yasuo, and where will we see a Yasuo?
Yeah.
The question is, oh, baby.
He's back.
Haru's Rengar, the legendary Rengar in the LCK is back with enough bans you can justify it. Here we go. We've seen one already, that was Blossom. There's a big difference between Blossom's Rengar and Haru's Rengar. In spring season of 2017, when he vaulted onto Samsung almost won MVP purely off how many Rengar MVPs he picked up. Now we're getting going on the Rift.
It's finally going to come through for Haru. Can't wait to see it. And what also will be that jungle pick, the Trundle, seemingly falling down in priority in the jungle, but it is left over, and it is still pretty good. So we will see Yondu go on to that Trundle pick.
Consistent damage on the side of MVP is mostly around the Ryze and the Zoe. They're flipping them around, but Zoe will be in the mid lane, that much I promise you. A lot of magic damage on MVP, no physical damage, so it's going to be very easy for the Ornn to itemize, but Dr. Mundo will run away with this game potentially. Damage on the side of Gen G. It's kind of Ezreal in the late game and Rengar in the early to mid. Could be a high damage will from Fly. Yukal in a position like this will be busting out the Nashor's tooth, so we'll wait and see what the build is from Fly. But on both sides, consistent damage at a premium. That tells me that Snowball will be very important, and given its Snowball meta, maybe that's not a big surprise.
Yeah, now that you mention it, it kind of does feel like Gen G's composition is one of these ones that can, if they get behind, just fall apart. It reminds me of, you know, throwing Faker on Lulu and having him build banner first and essentially just be an ult bot for the majority of the game. It's not really what you want from Faker, and it might not be what you want out of Fly, but will they have enough damage? Definitely a good and solid question.
If we run it 100 games, I would say they'd run out of damage more than 50 times. But with Haru on Rengar, the theory goes out the window. 3 kills on Rengar early, it doesn't matter. A snowball early, it doesn't matter. In the ultra late game, Dr. Mundo will have this. Avoid the ultra late game by buffing up Haru in the early game. And Inspector's Pathing, it's going to be a treat to watch him back on the Rengar.
Yeah, I mean, Lulu Rengar can definitely get in your face and be aggressive, but at the same time, we've also seen Zoe's pop off in tandem with Dr. Mundo. That composition, that combo, I should say, the duo, is really, really strong once we do get into the team fight phase. So we'll see if that does happen. Looks like we will have a slight pause issue as we do get into this one, but yeah, should be jumping into it in just a bit, guys. If we already saw that MVP got close with their Master Yi strategy, even though they were coming from behind. But after this draft, I feel like they also have a legitimate chance to try to sneak another game away from Gen G.
Gen G have so many different strategies around setting up Ruler to carry. Ruler has been the last of the Mohicans, or the last of the AD carries in many ways. He has been the one to keep AD carry around. We mentioned that 30, I guess now 33% or so win rate for the AD carries. Most of those wins are from Ruler, who has only dropped 1 game on the Cogmore. So he's trying to hold strong, and they could 2-0 MVP here. It would also mean they'd be right up there next to Griffin at the top of the table with 3 match wins to close out week number 1.
Yeah, sure. Impressions after week number 1. If everything did go according to plan, like we expected, you know, a 2-0 or 2-1 from Gen G. Certainly those 2 G teams would be up at the top. Let's see if they can topple over MVP jumping into game 2. Everybody trying to get on that chant there for Gen G. Both of these teams with big...
We're brawling here about this.
Okay, coming on in. It's going to dodge the paddle star. Good work from Haru. He'll have no chance of going down, but Gen G in the past, you know, KSV, Samsung, they didn't always have the most vocal, biggest fan bases. This is really annoying, by the way. But MVP always has. So it's good to see that now Gen G is building a big and loud fan base against MVP's big and loud fan base.
Even winning the World Championships wasn't enough to vault Gen G into the hearts of most. It's all about winning in Korea. If they win a Korean World Championship at the end of this year, that would certainly get them there. If they win an LCK title, that would also get them there. And that has been the last piece of the puzzle for Gen G. They know that they're not spotted here because the minion wave didn't aggro onto them. Lovely little mind game there. If you get into the second brush, you get that extra option. G, pull back, looking at the runes. Aftershock Fiddle is the common rune choice we see. Basically, the only thing he has to proc it is the Fear. But given that you pick him for the Fear, makes perfect sense, because otherwise he fears and the person next to him that isn't feared kills Fiddle.
Yeah. I mean, Fiddle's a scarecrow. He's, you know, made out of paper and hay. He doesn't have much tankiness, but if you pick up Aftershock, all of a sudden he turns into this big tank for a good 3 seconds. That's basically all you need during that Fear, so it's becomes a good pick. Really like what they did with the runes, just opening up stuff like that and possibilities for Fiddles to be a tank for just a small moment in time. Also open up the potential for this kind of meta, so I'm always happy.
Yeah, my favorite thing about the runes was the rune change and no longer having rune pages was that rune pages was so much invisible information. There was no clean way to show to the viewers what the rune page was, and honestly, it was the difference between 1% crit or a little bit more attack speed. They were expensive, you know, you had to spend your time to earn them. Now that we have this open system where you can see what your favorite pro player is doing and copy it very easily, and that was a big improvement, even though the balance for some specific rune abuse cases has been a problem over the years. Already found out at level 1 that dueling Yondu is not the easiest, so for now at least, Haru isn't looking for the 1v1s, but post 6, I'm sure we're going to see some Rengar shenanigans.
Just gotta wait until they do get online. The Cleanse Glacial Augment here on the core JJ alongside of the Teleport Ezreal. Going to be a really annoying duo to deal with. Let's see if Ruler can try to carry from the bot lane again.
JJ wanted to steal away the Gromp there. Would have felt pretty good about that. Could have killed it with just the W. Haru looking for a lane gank. No lane ward put down by Fiddle. Getting into the second brush. Oh, unfortunate bounce there.
I wonder who could be in the brush. Is it the Tahm Kench that was just in the river? The answer is no.
It's the most utility I've seen out of Fiddlestick's support by accident ever. That's awesome. Good to see. Does mean Haru will go back to the jungle. Ezreal Tahm Kench, again, it was taken in the first round. It is the lane that Gen G will pick if they're going to pick first when it comes to a full bot lane, because it's the safest as safe can be in so many different ways. Wow, ADD falls super low.
He's got that bone plating helping him out, but it's not looking good for him up in the top side, especially with the lane that is pushing towards Ornn. And now both junglers up towards the top side, so we are going to have MVP, or rather ADD, head back and have to teleport back in the lane.
Touch on Ezreal Tahm Kench for a moment. Ezreal has a 2-item power spike that used to be the minimum and you had to exploit, but of course now keeps him relevant in the mid game. He has a lot of safety if the support roams and Tahm Kench there to devour him. It's super safe, and also it has a cheap build path. That's why it's the blind picked lane on blue side from Gen G, because it does everything reliably and safely, which is what you need from an AD carry in this meta, because risking it for the biscuit with a 3 to 5 item carry isn't worth it.
Yeah, you won't have enough time to get up to those items to build all the crit items you need to actually be relevant in the game. It's part of the reason why this meta has changed in this way. Both of our AD carries, if you can call them that, in this game are going to be tier stacking AD carries, and they'll both have teleport. Ryze versus Ezreal on the bottom side.
ODJ wanted to freeze and was caught with the ward put down from MVP. Yondu and Haru around, a level advantage for Haru, but because it's Trundle, doesn't mean much if Ian is roaming first. Doing a good job of keeping the Were-Kitty accountable, but from the level 1 trade, you could see that leaping into Trundle wasn't the smartest move for the Rengar.
Take a look at this mid lane. You don't always get to see carry versus carry, or just people who can do damage in the mid lane go head to head, as we did have Taric versus Braum in game number 1, but this time at least it will be Zoe versus Lulu, who's not necessarily going to be that huge damage dealer, but does a lot more than the Braum that Fly was playing in game 1.
And the viewers, of course, have to understand it's sliding scales of carries. We are calling Lulu a carry just because it's not AD carry support, it's not some sort of funnel strategy. So everything's a carry right now if it doesn't involve someone giving up all their fun.
Look at this. They're reading this so well, this red buff steal. And look at Max is already here. Trying to bait in a 2v2 or a 3v3, but all of a sudden a Fiddle shows up with the fear and the hit onto that blasting plat. Now Haru in a lot of trouble here, but
meanwhile
versus Ian, and CoreJJ comes in, helps out, but the first blood actually goes over to ADD on the top side before the Tom Kenson picked that up. So 1 for 1, but first blood over to MVP.
You could see that Rengar was struggling so hard to get to the disengage point of the blast plant, ended up going into enemy lines. Awkwardly, they do give up the first blood. The supports roaming on both sides, proving pretty pivotal. Moots of mobility, the big advantage for the Fiddlesticks to get there so fast. But watch the replay, and we're going to focus on the bot side. You can see on the mini-map what was happening elsewhere. CoreJJ, they're much delayed, but if you notice, Ian, he kind of mad modes and walks up to the Lulu, who had plenty of mana to cast ultimate. That's where he just didn't have his eyes on CoreJJ. So much action, you can only look in 1 or 2 spots and not noticing the Tahm Kench coming up and lapping up the kill.
Doesn't use the polymorph onto the Zoe, uses it on herself instead, perhaps trying to just get into the fight as soon as possible, and then runs face to face with the Zoe. So good call there by CoreJJ to be on time. And well, after a very tumultuous little engagement we had there, it is just going to be 1-1, not a huge advantage going either way. It's really just about that CS lead in the bottom side and even the top lane for Kive over ADD.
A bit surprised to see a visit to the Bramble Vest from Orin, but I guess he just wants to make it a double cost from Mundo when he looks for a trade, the health cost of his abilities and also his auto attacks. I believe it was Prophet that was heavily criticized for going Frozen Heart against a all magic damage team, and this is, I think, about the utility of the Bramble Vest. Magic resist from here, please. Cuvée is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, would have to agree. Get some magic resist. You're going to need it against Zoe and the Rise. Scuttle Crab fight comes in, and here's Tom Kench to help out. Not even going to need him. The two of them just trying to get on top of Ian here, who might be in a bit of trouble. There's the lick straight onto the Zoe, and Ian is going to go down. A 2 for 0 in favor of Gen G.
Roam timings from CoreJJ punished Faker when he was on the Taric with the Taric Master Yi strategy earlier this week. Now the roaming timing with that Abyssal Voyage. Perfect from CoreJJ, and then Ruler sees a Zoe. Doesn't miss a single Mystic shot, even though the portal jump was used. Went to the original spot, got the kill. Very nicely done by Gen G, and those are the sort of crisp map movements that we've seen again and again from Gen G that shows you that there's still room for macro strategy in this crazy meta.
I mean, of course, when you're fighting over Scuttle Crabs like this, going this hard and everyone, it's going to be a lot easier for Tom Kench to be a bigger pick in the meta, for him to roam up with the AD carry nearly instantly with the Abyssal Voyage. Such a key ability for fighting around that bottom side river. It gets them 2 kills and the Ocean Drake, and Gen G looking good to start off.
And then you get to that point where if I say, okay, how about a really cheap 2-item carry, ultra safety in lane, almost ungankable, and you roam first? You should be saying, yes, please, who are those 2 champions? That's Ezreal, Tahm Kench. That is the duo lane that Gen G will take blind. And I think it's underrated by every other team in the world, because this duo lane does a bit of everything, and they do it every time. And I'm not just talking about Ru and CoreJJ as players. The champions are very, very good.
They truly are. Showing them off tonight. Actually getting a big lead for their team. Already Ezreal 1-0, stacking up that tier, feeling good about himself right now. Fly handling the mid lane very well, keeping even with Ian, who is 0-2 after a bunch of shenanigans early on. So gotta feel good about that mid lane for now.
I think Yondu tried to control around the river area. Drake was taken by Gen G, so that hasn't spawned for a long while. But Ocean Drake to keep Ruler happy and topped up in lane. Getting Rise and Fiddle onto the map is proving so much more difficult for MVP, and Rise is falling down a little bit in farm, even with the roams that are coming through from the enemy. Counterfeit Ignite used there, if you're wondering, by Ian.
2 junglers hanging around the mid side. Mid and jungle have always been known as 2v2 in a way, but even more so in this meta. CoreJJ moving forward to try to ward up here. He's getting low, gonna have to pop that great health, and even the wild growth. Just in the trade for one ward deep in that jungle. Not the best trade there for CoreJJ.
It was pretty greedy by CoreJJ. He walked all the way up the river. Yondu had already cleared out a ward in that area, so he had to know they didn't have priority. And the Fiddle this time was able to pull off the collapse. So a bit tone-deaf by CoreJJ. Unnecessary play by him. Does draw out some resources from mid. Unlikely to be punished as Yondu walks up, clears control ward. MVP investing a lot to control the river. And while that might make the Abyssal Voyage a bit more obvious and reliable, less reliable, I should say. Let's see if we can actually punish the mid lane.
Lulu's passed, and she has Merc Treads. She's going to get away from ganks such as that if she's not in a Sleepy Trouble bubble, and she also has Cleanse and Flash available. Down a Wild Growth, and might be a little bit of trouble. The insta-cleanse onto that Fear means that he will get away from that Fiddle.
They thought with the Wild Growth down they'd have a moment, but the Cleanse there as well. Super defensive choice. We wondered if Faker would go into the Cleanse, but he took Ignite against Zoe when he was in the matchup. If you take the Cleanse, you can repel pressure very, very well. Not going to be able to control the Zoe, but still, Gen G repel another gank. They propel Ruler towards his 2 items. Probably going for that Trinity Force as a second item, and that's when Gen G will truly turn on.
They already have the advantage in the mid side now because that failed gank there from Max, who does blow Flash Ignite as well to even get in there. And with no turrets down, that bottom one getting even closer, that'll be a nice chunk of gold to add to the scaling of the Ezreal. Get him onto those 2 items a little bit faster.
You know, the pushing in mid lane has been relentless from Fly in face of 2 people. Taking that turret down to 300-400 health.
It's part of the reason why you do take that banner. No cleanse this time onto Fly, but he gets away with the W once again. That speed boost is enough to get him out of range.
That was the first bit of information about his build. Can go banner into situational, but the banner is just making the Zoe so accountable. The first roam got the first bit of damage down. The second one is going to get this mid lane turret eliminated. Hard to find space for Zoe to farm when she doesn't have the short lane in mid to farm. And now Gen G, they're going to control the blue side quadrant of MVP.
Here, we're talking about trying to get the snowball rolling for a composition that doesn't have huge damage in the late game. Well, I'd say they are getting an A+ from me, right? They take the first turret in the mid lane. They're about to push this bottom side as well. They've dealt with the roaming of Max very well as well, and the Zoe has been put down for now.
And I think we actually see a mistaken itemization by Pilot. Look, he's actually going Rod of Ages and into the Archangels. That might sound standard to a lot of people, but other Rises in basically every role have been going tier into a situational second item like Morellonomicon or Shirelia's, because the game is decided before Rod of Ages fully stacks more often than not. In a game like this where you do have so much outscale on your comp, go for items you can fight with early. Get that Seraph super early. Otherwise, this comp from Gen G that wants to fight early, that's probably going to avoid double tier and just go single tier item into a Blade of the Ruin King. If you got a 5-stack Rod of Ages, you could have had so much more. So I would have liked to see Pilot bring back the scaling of his items a little bit further.
Yeah, would have to agree. It's going to be a while before that Rod of Ages even gets up to enough stacks to be critical. Probably by 25 minutes if he does finish it now on his back. So it's going to take a while. Bit of a mistake there for sure. And even more snowballing. You already took down the mid turret, and there's no vision around the Rift Herald for MVP. You just saw them go back after pushing out bot lane. Let's go for the Rift Herald.
And you just need items to be able to fight for things like this. I understand that it's far away from Rise, but every little advantage that Gen G gets plays into their win condition of fighting now. Miramana transformation is all the Ezreal needs to be by far the strongest person on the Rift. Mundo's got 1 item, everyone else at 1 item. As they delete the Ezreal, which is tricky to do, it's going to be hard for MVP. And look at the TP.
Yeah, about that cleanse, Tom Kent. Oh, see you later, Ian. Didn't even see you there. And now Max, this Scarecrow, he does run out of his Aftershock, and he's going to disappear as well. Pilot died in the jungle, too. This game is all but over, man. A 4-for-0 in favor of Gen G.
4 kills, and ADD just gets a front seat and says, damn, my team is way behind. In every single way, Gen G outplay them. Wonderful TP spot from Cube, who doesn't use his ult to start. He gets the stun down, holds on to the ult. Everyone is flanked. Crowstorm over the wall to escape. It all goes to hell in a handbag. Watch the replay here. This is Trinity Force and Manamoon on the Ezreal. They may get the trouble bubble, but from there they turn on to Ian. They use the Drake as a place to fight, and Haru finds Pilot in the interim as well. 2/3 of a Rod of Ages, that's not going to help you, mate. You're dead. Beautiful play from Gen G, and this is the sort of gold lead you don't come back from too often on patch 8.11.
Yeah, and I think Ian, he's just fallen into Zoe thinking mode. You know, you hit the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, you send back the Paddle Star, and you jump in. But you don't do that up against 2-item Ezreal and a team that's ahead of you right now. He gets punished so hard for that. And the rest of his team baited in a little bit as well. And it's just funny also to watch Pilot just decimated by the Rengar in the jungle. Doesn't have much in terms of survivability just yet. And, well, yeah, spread across there. ADD was nowhere to be found in time. It was a very one-sided fight.
In World Cup season, Valdez, Brazilian football fans will remember, you don't come back from 7-1 too often. This 7-1 is basically a football score. Gen G are so far ahead. Like I mentioned, Ruler isn't going to build a second tier. He's going to pile on the damage. Blade of the Ruin King. It's going to be the next item coming through here. Pilot's got 2 stacks of Rod of Ages. Not going to do much for the side of MVP.
Ruler's struggling with the blue buff. He's not struggling much with MVP, but the blue buff, oh, that's a little bit too much for him. Finally takes it down. And, well, what's going to be the next step here? There's no Baron, but they're already 6,000 gold ahead. Wouldn't be surprised to see them push down the mid lane and try to continue with the snowball.
They're going to set up for the Baron that spawns soon and take over the red side jungle. They own the blue side jungle. We saw that already. That's where they got all their kills. They're going to take over the top side now. MVP, it's risky to face check anything. Ian may be skipping, but that's only because his champion naturally does. Fly pushing on the top side. Just a disaster from MVP. This is one of those, we were so close to beating a top team in game 1, then kind of fell apart in game 2 times. As here we go.
Well, let's see if they can take down Mundo with a stopwatch. It will be pretty hard to do, as you'll notice. Ruler is going to have to be gobbled up there and run away from that fight. Mundo, still pretty strong, even early on in the game. He's level 11, so that ult's beginning to do a little bit more for himself.
To what end, though, Valdez? What end? We can't get too excited about MVP not losing another member. They lose a summoner. The Gen G train, a hype train in the developing stages, pushes up again and again. Trundle has to be used to stand to stop turrets going down, and that Baron, it spawns in 10 seconds.
Ruler's getting frisky now. He's going on to Ian, 1v1 underneath the turret, and even sticking around. Jumping underneath the turret there was Ruler. Knew he had Tahm Kench as well. This is this combo you're talking about. You feed the Ezreal, he gets ahead. He's 3-0-2 now, and you have so much room to jump under turrets because you have a Tahm Kench right behind you.
80 carry in summer 2018. Could it be any more sweet for Ruler? Well, we get a MVP interview and a follow-up question with him. They keep pushing up. They keep pushing up. The minion wave's dead. Fly isn't. They take another turret. 6-0 in turrets. Maybe behind in Scuttle Crabs, but only a single kill here from MVP. May not be the perfect game, but it is a perfect game for Gen G fans because it shows their level of dominance if the early game goes well for them.
Yeah, especially with this kind of comp, and I feel like as long as the game continues along this path, we'll probably have Ruler once again as our MVP. And I would love the, Sunke to come in from Smo TV and actually pick his brain about where he stands now after more and more 80 carry victories.
Ezreal is the most set up for success, but what did we say, Valdez? We said, here's a duo lane that does it all, Ezreal and Tahm Kench. And maybe Lucian and friends can't quite be able to copy what the Ezreal can do, but we've seen enough drafts that Ezreal fell through to know that teams need to value this pick a bit higher.
Certainly true. Glad you mentioned the Lucian. We saw a lot of bans on the Lucian early on. in this week. It's only been a week, guys. And now he was nowhere to be seen in Game 2 draft at all. No pick, no ban. Just higher priority on other stuff. Rise, Vladimir, AD carry, Mordekaiser even. And of course, our resident Ezreal and Ashe here from Ruler.
Oh, the
and he's looking for
outrageous.
More. There you go. Gonna have to flash that True Shot Barrage if you want to survive. And well, Ruler is a monster now. He has played the Rune King. He's working towards the Merc Treads, it looks like, or maybe even a QSS, not even sure. Can go for anything at this point.
I did like the moment they had vision of the Baron, it was Ruler soloing it. It was before everyone else had used the Blasting Plant over. Rise ultimate zone, but Gen G's like, well, I would have liked some kills, don't really care about you. Baron's going to be secured, nicely picked up. Gen G now 12,000 gold ahead of MVP, and you know, Gen G are pretty far ahead of a lot of the competition in the LCK too. They started off spring well. We should mention the first 2 to 3 weeks pretty good for them to that loss to Kongdu Monster. But this is a different Gen G. Fly in the mid lane has been much more robust than we could have given him credit for. Haru is in the sort of form that he was better part of 2 years ago in spring of 2017. If they can keep this up, only really a Freak of Freaks have shown a similar level of proficiency. Even the new team Griffin, that'll be a fun one. No one wants to face Gen G in this form.
But everybody's gonna have to do it twice, at least twice, as we do move on here in summer. Very scary team, no doubt. Ruler and Monster right now, just hopping forward, forces another flash with the two-shot barrage. Ruler just having his way with MVP right now, just having a blast here. Knows he can just E forward, basically do whatever he wants. This game is all but done, guys. You can wrap it up from here. 23.5 minutes in. Your resident Ezreal Ruler continues with saying, hey guys, 80 carries, especially Ezreal, are really good.
Looking for Gen G to close on this push. Waiting for that call of the Forge Gods on cooldown, but that's all they need, I think, to take down this last Nexus turret.
Yandu's health, that's 1 Q. Yeah, down goes the second Nexus turret. Here comes Mac for the move forward, but a big knock up into the Wild Growth, and see you later, MVP. Get out of my game, says Gen G. Ruler gonna try to pick up another kill, but it's not gonna matter. That is gonna do it, 2-0 over to Gen G, 24 minutes, GG.
Gen G go 3-0, joining Griffin at the top of the table at the end of week 1, and I like that you single out Ruler. This guy brought it onto himself and said, other people aren't playing AD carry because they're not as confident in it, they're not as good in it as I am. And Ruler has been our best performing player on a style of champion people thought and predicted would be dead. Could it be any more sweet that you are the best overall player in week 1 and you're one of the few to actually still be playing marksman? He has not played a non-marksman in the entirety of those 3 match wins, and yet he's looked a class above.
Yeah. It only makes sense, right? The MVP of Worlds, the only AD carry to do so, brings it forward into summer. All the way down, saying, hey, I'm still the best. I'm still on top. And MVP, unfortunately, looking defeated after that one. They were so close in game 1, so close. One mistake, and they might be going into game 3 against Gen G, but unfortunately, they will just not get that chance.
What was the problem behind the struggles in spring? People will say Crown right now, but there were bigger problems for Gen G. They changed their name. People laugh again and say changing a name twice in the same year after winning the World Championships. What are you thinking? Fly over Crown. What are you thinking? Clearly the thoughts were clearer than we could have known. They are so much better than we could have given them credit for. Ruler, 1-2. The third Mystic shot he holds on to for the return. Beautifully done there on that particular gank. And it just all came unglued for MVP. The moment that Fly got away from this gank, that was the creeping doubt that had been seeded by the fact that MVP was so close in game number 1, but not close enough. But then this play, using the Searing Charge here and holding on to the ultimate until after the fear was down. Fear during the ultimate, that stops the actual big ram from coming down. The ram definitely happened this game, and MVP got rammed straight out of the rifts.
That they did. Not the cleanest game here for MVP, but one of the cleanest we've seen from Gen G, and that's what happens when you get this really one-sided game. Even the Mundo died. That's That's a big deal, guys. That doesn't happen very often.
It does happen pre-30 when he doesn't have any items. That's the thing, it's the timer here, 24 minutes. Shorter than the average game time by far, 15,000 damage. Most damage dealt by Ezreal again. And while a lot of people will say that Ezreal stands alone, he's been able to do it on other champions. About the class of champions, if he's blind picking Ezreal Tahm Kench, other people should be as well. Love to watch Gen G. Every Gen G match is now must watch for me, because if they can stay in this sort of form, we're going to be seeing them in the LCK Summer 5.
Yeah, I wish I had the schedule in front of me. We're going to get a look at it a little bit later on, maybe after the MVP interview. But we'd love to see who they're facing next, and when are they facing Afrika?
It's the last match day of the week, so we'll get that information.
That's what I want to watch, that matchup, Gen G versus Afrika. They look like the two teams on top, as you mentioned. KT kind of, sitting at third or fourth with Griffin right now after week 1, I'd say. It's still very early, guys.
And Rule's going to win the MVP for this game because, of course...
Really?
Really?
Really? Yeah, I think he's going to get a pop-up. And the MVP is ready. Let's wait and see. Yeah, 16,000 gold ahead, 2 Ocean Drakes to make it even less crazy towards the end there, but it was over 15,000 as a
it's a kill away
victory.
from a perfect game.
Yeah.
That is how dominant was.
Okay.
Wow. We're going to give it to Core JJ for his evacuation and roams on the Tahm Kench. Take that, Ruler. By the way, guys, we don't get a vote in SPO TV. In OGN days, the casters do get a vote. We don't get a vote on SPO TV days, so we're as surprised as you are.
All right, well, the casters look like fools this time around, but Core JJ not looking the fool. He's up there on stage. And we're going to be hearing from him. I'll hand it over to Ji-sun to help translate.
Thank you very much. This is Ji-sun with your interpret translation. Today, Gen G Esports picked up 2-0 victory against MVP. And let's hear from Haru and Core JJ from Team Gen G. Congratulations on your victory. Well, how was today's match? I was a little bit nervous in the early games for the first set, so I thought we might be losing the first game. But I'm really happy that I won, and I also got the MVP. Well, for me, I knew that we were in a huge lead, so I thought it was gonna go as we prepared. But I actually didn't expect this game to get to the late game, so I was a little bit worried. Yeah, team fights near MVP's Nexus was actually didn't really went as you guys planned, right? So after the first set, I think we kind of overplayed when we were trying to get down to the Nexus. So our coaching staff told me to not just play too much after winning the first team fights. What about you, Core JJ? After losing several team fights, I thought it was better of escaping the MVP's engagement. So we tried to get away from SRE by using Cube's ultimate. So I was a little bit worried when Darius actually got us. Yeah, I think ADD really played well on his Darius today. But at that moment, when you guys caught out Darius in the first game, that's the moment that you guys got your momentum back, right? And we also wanna know you guys answering about Nesari and Tariq duo. This is the team comp we kind of prepared against that duo. But today I was a little bit nervous. So I knew that we were gonna be in the lead in the early games, but for me making mistakes, I think we kind of let MVP to come back a little bit.
쑥스러운 모습인데 코어장전 어떻게
What about
봤어요?
you,
일단
Core
브라움에
JJ?
관련된 그 부분이 지금의 현재 이게 마타라는 조합에 대해서
So
확실히
is
좋은 모습
Braum
보여줄 수
a
있는
certain
느낌일까요?
counter pick for Master and Tariq?
일단은 대항마 정도로는 괜찮은 픽인 것
Yeah, I
같고.
think it's a very viable
근데
counter
오늘
pick.
해보니까 마스터이가 굉장히 세다는 걸 좀.
But I realized that Master E is really strong.
많은 연구가 필요할 것
So I
같아요.
think we should get back to our drawing board and come out with better strategy.
그러니까 지금 그만큼
And moving on to game
얼마나
2,
뛰어난지를
there were
선수들은 이미
4
알더라고요.
bans on
다른
supporter
팀들도
role.
마찬가지고. 사실 뭐 국대 듀오라는 표현을 쓰면서도 뭐 원딜 룰러
No,
선수
I think that
쪽으로
proves that
했습니다만
how
그만큼
good you are as a
코어전전이
supporter.
만들어낸 장면들이 좋게 굉장히 많았었는데 어땠나 이거 서포트 밴들이 이어지는 걸 지켜보면서.
What are your comments about the support bans?
그럴 때일수록 더 재밌는 것 같아요. 이제
I
벤이
think
많이
it
당하면
makes me feel a lot more excited.
그 이제
You know,
남은
I can
챔피언이
try
가장 좋은
new champions
좋은
as a
모습을
supporter,
보여주면
and if I
벤한테
perform
의미가
well,
없어지니까.
banning out so many supporters kind of like doesn't really worth it, right? So it makes me a little bit happy.
두 선수 설명해 주실까요? 장면 만나보시죠.
Then let's check out some clips of the games.
좀 뒤를 보시면 좀 더 편할 거예요. 일단 그 킬이 만들어진 장면인데 탈리아가 한 번에 쓸어 담는 굉장히 많은 장면들이 있긴 있었습니다. 저 마지막 5번 땡에 있었던
And here are the kill logs of the game, and I can see there are a lot of kills on Talia.
인상 깊었었던 킬이 좀 있을까요? 어떤 장면들?
Is there any moment that you want to point out?
막 좀 너무 정신없는 한타에서
Well, there were too many team fights, so I can't really pick out one.
이게 저희 막 다 죽고 그래서
Well, I mean, it was a little bit kind of a messy game, so we all just died, and MVP also died, everyone, so like, I can't really pick out one.
사실상 마지막 막전투에 대한 그 궁금증이 좀 있었어요.
Well, we actually prepared a clip about the last team fight.
상대방이 실수한 거여서
Well, it was MVP's mistake, so yeah, it wasn't my super play.
왜냐면 사실 궁금했던 게 다리우스가 잠깐 아래쪽으로 치우치는 듯 싶다가
So
팀원들이
Darius was
내려온다라는
a little bit
그
positioning
아마
separated
받았던 것
from
같아요. 그래서 몸이
teams,
좀,
right?
움직임이 좀 달라지는 장면이 있었거든요. 벌써 팀 내에서
So were you guys aware of that?
일단 다리우스 위치를 모르고 있었어요.
Well, actually, we were not.
이거였죠?
네, 갑자기 부시에 들어가니까
We just
다리우스가
saw him
눈이 딱 마주쳐가지고
in our jungle, so we were so surprised.
얘 생각해보면 이거 혼자다.
But I just realized that he was far from his teammates, so yeah, we just tried to cut Darius out first.
판단 이후에 좀 말씀을 한번 해주세요. 그러니까 지금은 다리우스가 잡히고 난 뒤에 나머지 선수들을 정리하는 그런 장면들이 나왔었는데 이 장면 다시 한번 좀 고장 선수가 설명해 주실까요?
근데 저기
So
부시에
here,
그냥 한번 들어가 봤는데
I just wanna go face check our jungle, but
저도 처음에 바로 무서워서
Darius just ran onto me, so I was really surprised.
뭐 다리우스가
And then
다리우스도 저희 위치를 정확히 몰랐던 것 같아서
I realized that he was far from his teammates, and also I think didn't even realize that we were trying to get visions in our red jungle, so
들어갈 때까지 다리우스가 체크하지 못했었고.
it was a lucky play on our side.
자 이렇게 되면 이제 경기에 좀 마무리되는 장면이 있었습니다. 근데 하루 선수가 도리어 MVP를 타고 나서 왜 고개를 갸웃했어요?
And it seemed like you weren't really sure about being MVP for the game 1.
초반에 너무 실수를 많이 해서 그런지
Well, I made too many mistakes in the early game, so
됐다? 이런 느낌이 많이
I was a little bit
나가지고
disappointed to myself.
그래서 좀 제가 받은 게 좀 의아하긴 했어요.
So I thought I don't really deserve MVP.
봐달라고 하시던데.
그래서 고마워요. 착함에서 비롯된 거였네요. 그럼 이 경기도 이어서 한번
Then moving on to game 2.
선수를 1세트의 MVP를 줘야 된다는
Well, there are a lot of comments saying that Core JG deserve MVP for the first game also.
그런 모습들이 있었거든요. 2세트는 돌이켜 보면 어떻습니다? 사실
And how was
순식간에
the
지나가는 경기긴
game 2
했는데.
today?
네, 일단 라인전 구도에 대해서 탐켄스 피드스틱을 많이 해보진 않았어요.
Well, I actually didn't had a lot of experience about Tom Kent's and Fiddlestick matchup.
네, 피드스틱을
But our support, Life, he's a master of Fiddlestick sports, so he gave me a lot of comments and tips for playing against Fiddlestick.
게임이 흘러가서 마음이
So I think it went easier than I expected.
랭가. 사실 그 시그너스 픽 하루 선수의 시그너스
And
픽
Haru, you played Rengar, which is your signature pick.
꾸준히 나오기도 어렵고 하루도 안 고를 것이다라는 얘기도 있었거든요.
Actually, a lot of people didn't really expect you to play Rengar today.
선택이었네요.
좀 항상 자신감은 가지고 있어서
I always have
랭가에
huge
대한 의사를 좀 표현했거든요.
confidence on playing
그래서 좀
Rengar in
이렇게
jungle.
뽑았던 것 같아요.
So I kind of told my coaching staff that I can do well on Vanguard today.
실수 좀 해가지고
But today I did
그
make
레드-
some mistakes today.
레드 옆쪽 부시에서 죽었는데 이제 그거 말고는 그래도 잘.
But
그린 것
except that, I think I did
랭가는
quite well
좋은
today.
장면이 많이 나왔으니까 그런 생각 없을 것 같고 뭐 코어장전의 탐켄치는 아예 미스가 없다라는
And
얘기가
Core
있을
JJ or
정도로
Tomkins
완벽한
was
경기 운영이 있었습니다.
just
뭐
perfect
신현우
today.
마찬가지였고
There was no
중간에
mistake
팔을
or
딱 펼쳐야
it was
되는
just
전투
clean and
직접
perfect.
그 모습들도 굉장히 인상 깊다는 얘기들이 있었거든요.
네.
어떤 콜들이 있었나요 그때는?
So what kind of calls did you make in
일단
game
제가 가고
2?
있으니까 저 믿고 이제 들어가라. 약간 이런
Well,
식으로 게임을
when
했던
there
것
was a
같고.
team
네.
fight, I told my
일단
teammates
탐켄치라는
that I was on the way
주도권을 잡으면 불리기가 되게
to make them
쉬운데
feel better.
제혁이랑
And you know,
이제
Tomkins is a really
같이
good
라인전을 해서
support
되게
champ
잘해줘가지고
that you can
주도권을
snowball when
쉽게
you guys
잡았던
are in a lead. So I think it helped us a lot today.
질문 속에 들으셨을 것 같은데 국대 듀오라는 느낌은 어떤 느낌이에요? 이게 사실 부담스러울 수 있을 것 같고
How does it feel to be a national player for League of Legends?
한데 어떻습니까 그 느낌?
일단 그렇죠. 부담스러운 것도
Well,
있고
there is a lot of
이제
pressure on me,
재밌는 것 같아요. 이게
but I
부담감을
think it's a
안고
very
더 많은
exciting
분들이 더
experience.
저희의 플레이에 대해서 더 관심을 갖고 봐주실 테니까
네.
I know there will be a lot of people watching us playing as a national player, so I wanna
부담되면서도
respond with
재밌어요.
great performance. So it's kind of does give me a lot of pressure, but I think it's a really
평소에 이 음식은 나
happy
항상 안
experience.
먹는다, 입맛이 달라졌다든가 중간에 뭐 그런 거 없었어요? 국대 듀오 돌아오자마자?
좀 막 이제
After they came back from the Asian Games, I felt like they were playing a little bit better than before.
엄청 잘하니까. 그리고 앞으로도 그 기회가 계속 있을 텐데 두 선수가 돌아와서 뭐 새롭게 뭐 자극을 줬다거나 뭐 그런 건
So
없었어요?
did they give you guys any kind of motivations?
그런 것보다는 평소대로 연습했던 것 같아요.
I think there was no big
평소대로?
difference after they came back, but I think we just kept on with our regular schedules after coming back from the Asian Games.
지금 뭐 팬 여러분들께서도 저렇게 쓰고 있어요 그냥 국대 보러 왔다고 국대 보러 왔다고.
The card says we are here to see our national
지금
players.
보셨죠? 질문하고 싶은 게 있어요? 물어볼까요? 잠깐만요. 국대 듀오 보러
Seems
왔다니까.
like he has a question.
먼저 자기 소개해 주세요. 국대 듀오 보러 왔는데.
안녕하세요. 저는 실버.
Hi, this is a Silver League support player.
오늘 우연찮은 기회로 오게 됐는데 서포트 유저로서 이제
As a support player, I really
제가
admire
이제 질문할
Core
처지는 아닌 것
JJ.
같아요. 이제 실버라서
그게 무슨 얘기예요? 질문 있는 줄 알고 내려왔는데.
I thought you had a question though.
서포트로 이제 게임을 운영할 때 가장
Then
중요하다고
what is the most
생각되는
important
부분
thing
한 가지 정도
to do as a
말씀해
support
주시면은
player in a League of
골드
Legends?
올라가는 데 도움이 될 것 같습니다.
This might help me to get into Gold League.
이게 정말 필요한 거거든요. 그 좋은 질문이었어요. 이런 거 들었는데 어떻게 하면 골드로 갈 수 있을까? 수많은 그 실버.
So what are your tips as a support to make him become a Gold League player?
어떠면 골드로 갈 수 있을까요?
일단 실버에서 골드뿐만 아니라 모든 분들이 서포터로
Regardless of tiers,
제 생각엔 자기 역할이 뭔지 잘 알고
every player should be aware of their
본인은
part.
마스터이가 아니라는 걸 알아야 된다.
네, 자기가 지금 뭘 해야지 게임을
So
이길 수 있는지
you should know what kind of play you have to
자기가
do
해야
in
할 일을
games.
계속 찾아가면서 게임을 하면은
You have to keep
실력이 좀 느는 것
looking
같아요.
for it.
이거
I think
굉장히
that
중요합니다.
helps you a lot to
본인이
become a
가셔서
better
반드시,
league player.
어디 사이트에 들어가서 내가 지금까지 마스터를 몇 번 했는지 비서폿을 몇 번 했는지를 체크해 보시면 내가 왜
Maybe you
실버인지를
should
알수
stick
있을 것
on to
같습니다.
classic
저도
support
그렇거든요.
roles.
네. 자 이렇게 해서 그 두 선수와 좀 얘기를 나눠봤습니다. 젠지 e스포츠의 이 기세가 계속해서
So
이어지고
Gen G
있습니다. 워낙
esports,
좋은 장면이 많이 나오고 있고
you know, you
이게
guys
인터뷰를
seem
할
so
때마다
strong
계속
in
만나는 그런
LCK.
사이가 돼가지고, 일단 하루 선수에게 또 이런 질문을 드리면 좀 죄송할 것 같고 이번에 그 코어장전
The
선수가
Core JJ.
함께 해주신 그 팬 여러분들께
Is there any last message you want to tell your fans?
네, 여기 되게 응원 많이 와주셔서 정말 감사하고
Thank you for coming out to support
이제
us here.
시즌 초반이지만
And I
분위기
know
잘
this is
살려서
only the
끝까지
beginning
잘해볼
of the
생각하고
season,
그냥
but
끝까지 열심히 한번 해보겠습니다.
I'm going to do my best
네, 고맙습니다.
to continue this consecutive victories and great performance. Thank you.
다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
So this will be the end of the interview with Core JJ Haru from Gen G Esports. Thank you.
I was glad to see you agreed with most of what he said, Papa. Seemed like you and Core JJ got a good thing going.
Finally, I can climb out of wood tier if I just listen to his advice.
You just got to know your place, just like he said.
It's wood 5. That's
Yeah.
my place. I need to get out of there, Valdez.
Well, see if he could do that. Gen G certainly have. They're up at the top, +5. They've only lost one game. And that puts them over Griffin up at the top. So first place now, and we got one more match. This is not the schedule I want to see. I want to see week 2.
That's at the end of Jinair and Hanwha Life Esports. 12 best of 3s down, 1 more to go. It's been a fantastic week of learning, and yet we still are only on the first page of the book. So many pages, so much to learn about. We saw the Mata strategy come crumbling down, but I still think we're going to see plenty more of it because it was close, Valdez. It was close.
It was close. One mistake, you know. Poor ADD gets caught in the jungle. I love how G-Sun called it their jungle, as if Gen G was like, he was in our jungle and we just found him, and, you know, we decided to eradicate him from our jungle. Kind of interesting there, but yeah, that's going to do it, a 2-0 for Gen G. It's kind of what we expected coming into this one. It was nice to see the Tarek and the Mastery not working, and Jinair versus Hanwha Life. I think it should be pretty close, Papa.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be quite a long break, guys. About 50 minutes last I checked the timer, so around 7:50 p.m. Korean Standard Time as someone tries to get in front of us.
Whoa.
Get away from me. I need my limelight. Oh, there I am. Okay.
I mean, he's got cool hair, but,
That's
you
true.
know, keep it off the camera for now.
Keep it off the camera for now. It's Papa's time to shine.
Yeah.
Fun game. One more series. No patch change as far as I can see for next week because that patch was midweek. It was on Wednesday, so it's less than a week before our Tuesday week starts. So I think we got more 8-11, so that means more fun for us.
Yeah, it is going to be a lot of fun. We'll be joining you guys once again in about 50 minutes for Jinair versus Hanwha Life. So we will see you guys after about 50 years.